Here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. Chase Sr. here with you. As always, thank you so much for supporting the channel and hanging out here with me on this Tuesday, June 24th. 49ers tight end George Kittle, perennial All-Pro, best tight end in the history of this organization, one of the best tight ends of all time, and a potential future Hall of Famer, is a big fan of this 49ers undrafted free agent wide receiver, given what he saw from this player throughout the spring during mandatory minicamp and OTAs. We're going to talk about that here on the show, but first, before we dive in, support the show by hitting that subscribe button. I encourage you to do so because we're hitting you with the best Niners coverage every single day right here on YouTube. You can also hit that thumbs up icon, like the video, leave a comment, and interact with the fellow faithful down in the comment section. You can also share this video on social media to let all of the real ones know that what we're doing here, what we're cooking up, is very, very special. So Kittle was on the Bussin with the Boys podcast. It's a big week for Kittle. He's having his tight end university camp in the Nashville area where some of the top tight ends in the National Football League all get together for workouts to learn from one another because they're at the top of their craft. And the Bussin with the Boys podcast, a very well-known podcast with Taylor Lewan, former offensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans, and Will Compton, who played his college ball in Nebraska, was a linebacker for a couple of teams, and they sit in this bus and they have great, entertaining, insightful, informative conversations, and Kittle has developed a good relationship with those two hosts over time, and so anytime they do link up, it's always a really entertaining interview. Bussin' with the Boys used to be on Barstool. Now I believe it's either on FanDuel or DraftKings, one of the big betting companies. And Kittle said this about Isaiah Neyor, and Neyor's name came up because he played his college football the last couple of years at Nebraska. Will Compton played linebacker at Nebraska, and so Compton, Kittle were kind of going back and forth about this young receiver who Kittle was very impressed by and has been very impressed by. And Kittle said this about Neyor, who has turned the heads of a lot of people within the Niners organization, including his teammates and the coaching staff, as well as some of the media members who were on hand for some of these practices throughout the spring sessions. Kittle said this, quote, "He's a freak. He was running a route and he got 9.5 yards in 2 strides. It was insane. We watched it 10 times in the tight end room. We were like, how is he doing this? At the bare minimum, he should make the practice squad. He's a freak." Kittle, Compton raving about his athleticism, and Neyor is a player who right after the draft had passed, and some people thought that he was going to be a late-round pick just because of the size, the freakish ability, the athleticism. The Niners signed him as an undrafted free agent. We talked about him in our UDFA video, and we've done some content on Isaiah Neyor over time, whether it be long-form shows or short-form content. He made some plays during the spring. He caught a long pass from Tanner Mordecai in which he reeled in a long ball using his great wingspan to catch the rock. Then he caught a deep ball from quarterback Brock Purdy. That was a clip that the Niners had tweeted out, and that kind of went viral because people saw the long strides and, again, the wingspan on display for Isaiah Neyor. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, and at 220 pounds on the pre-draft process, he ran a 4.4 flat 40-yard dash. That is freakish speed for a player who's that tall and that heavy. And he has these long arms that go all the way down to his knees, making him look a little bit like Randy Moss. That was an observation from Matt Barrows of The Athletic. The issue with him that I ran into in the draft process was, if he's that athletic, why didn't he have that much college production? He was a 3-star recruit in Texas, went to Wyoming, went to Texas, had this nice catch in the spring game from Quinn Ewers, only played 1 game for the Longhorns, and then he went to Nebraska and didn't really do much. So if you're that physically capable, freakish, and one of one, why was it that throughout his college career, he had 2 seasons in which he had 10-plus catches? So he kind of looks like Tarzan, but plays like Jane. But it's also notable that Kittle said that he should at least be a practice squad guy, because the Niners are just infatuated here with the athletic ability. He earned a relative athletic score of 997, checked in at a little more than 6'4", 218 pounds in the pre-draft. He had a vertical leap of 38 inches, a broad jump of more than 11 feet, and the 40-yard dash was a 4.4 flat. 4.4 flat. He was one of only a handful of players throughout the course of NFL Combine history to be that big and run that fast. And what makes this interesting is that the Niners have some questions at the wide receiver position. So Neyor could fight for a roster spot. Brandon Ayuk could start the year on PUP. If he does, he's not going to occupy a roster spot. Ricky Pearsall hurt his hamstring again, and he's been banged up a lot to start his career, but he's going to make the team. So you have Pearsall, Jawan Jennings, who's probably the number one, Jacob Cowing, Jordan Watkins, Demarcus Robinson. Those are the receivers who are definitely going to make the team. And then depending on how many roster spots the Niners have wide receivers occupying, Isaiah Neyor could fight for one of them, or ideally, because he's a little bit raw, he could be a stash player on the practice squad, maybe elevated up to the game day roster from time to time. But the Niners are hoping that in their player development program, they can get the best out of Isaiah Neyor. They can really maximize the player, and he can go from just being a big, fast, athletic guy to having play strength and actually turning in to a really good player. His best year was in 2021 with Wyoming. So he played one game in 2019. That didn't count toward his college standing as a college athlete as far as his eligibility goes. So 2020, he plays 6 games. He had 8 catches for 248 yards. 2021 was his breakout year. 44 catches, 878 yards, 20 yards per catch. Led the country, and he had 12 touchdowns. That put him on the radar to go to Texas. Sits out all of 2022, goes to Texas in 2023, 1 game, 1 catch for 14 yards. And then was with Nebraska last year. If I said he was with Nebraska 2 years, I do apologize. But he was with Nebraska last year, 34 catches, 455 yards, 5 touchdowns in 12 games. So not a bad year. But again, only 1 year in which he had double-digit catches or more. But in these spring practices really flashed enough to impress the best tight end in football, the best tight end in the history of this organization, and a guy who can end up being a future Hall of Famer. So training camp will start in less than a month at this point. It's going to be here before we know it. Isaiah Neyor is a name to remember, and you could tell with these clips of George Kittle on the Bussin with the Boys podcast. He was like, man, I'm bad with names. He didn't know his name at first, but once he got the name, he's like, yeah, number 14, he's a freak. I mean, he picked up 9 yards with 2 strides. We kept playing it back in the tight end room, and we were like, wow, name to watch, Isaiah Neyor, looking ahead to training camp and in the preseason too. And we'll be doing watch parties for all the preseason games. We'll be live during some of these training camp practices as well, continuing to give you the best coverage here on YouTube, covering the Niners because that's the standard. Other takeaways from what Kittle said on the Bussin with the Boys podcast, just a couple of other fun things that he had to say on what he'll do after his NFL career is over. He said, literally, until I don't have fun anymore or until my wife Claire looks at me and goes, you kind of look like shit out there, you should retire. I don't know. I think if I get to 35 and it hurts to put on pants in the morning, I'll be like, this ain't too much fun anymore. He did mention that he plans on possibly joining WWE once he retires. He's made some appearances before in the ring, and he's gone to a lot of wrestling matches. That could be really interesting for Kittle, and he's kind of a PR draw, so I imagine the WWE would kind of like that. George Kittle has played in 2 Super Bowls. What would he do in order to win a Super Bowl? What would he sacrifice? He said he'd go on IR Week 16 to watch the team win. He'd bite somebody's ear off. Hello, Mike Tyson. He'd cut off his pinky. He'd go to prison for a year, just not San Quentin, because the Niners went there when he was a young player. And he told this hilarious story how one of the inmates was like, who's the tight end? I'm going to get after him in kind of a sexual way. And Kittle was like, I'm a defensive lineman. I'm not a tight end. That's crazy. So he'd go to prison, just not that prison because he'd have his head on a swivel. Kittle, obviously a very funny guy. And here's the story. Yeah, I have it here. My rookie year, they made all the rookies go to San Quentin prison, and we're in there on a tour. We go into death row. One of the guys there said, "Which one's the tight end? Because I'm going to get up in that ass." And he was like, "I play linebacker." "Absolutely not. I'm okay." So not defensive lineman. He plays linebacker. That's what he told that inmate. That's hilarious. He also talked about the story. Remember last year when Brock Purdy bought all of those Toyota Tundras for his offensive lineman, or at least we thought, and people were like, "You're really getting Jake Brendel a Toyota Tundra when he can't even protect you?" Well, Kittle said that Purdy did not buy his offensive lineman Tundras. Instead, they were leases. He said the best part about that is that everyone is arguing online, "Oh my gosh, he spent his whole contract on that." No, they got free leases. I think everyone gets a 2 to 3 year lease for a Toyota. Not a bad deal for a brand new truck. He also said he spends up to $200,000 on his body in season each year in order to stay healthy for what is a very rigorous schedule and process of being an NFL player. He asked, because he just signed that $76 million contract, what are some of the best things that he's bought? He said the big flagpole right by his house where he can just fly an American flag. He also put in a football field at his house. Not full size, but we've seen him training on that, and also has this infamous weight room. Trey McBride, for instance, tight end of the Arizona Cardinals, who Kittle overtook to become the highest paid tight end in the NFL, was there working out with him the other day, earlier this week, as part of Tight End U, which is happening this week in the Nashville area. So good stuff there from George Kittle, always keeping it fun, always keeping it light, and he's a big fan and notices that Isaiah Neyor has a lot of talent, potential, and ability for San Francisco, and Kittle pretty much saying he should at least be on the practice squad for San Francisco during his rookie year in the hopes that he can develop into something more. Appreciate everybody for rocking and rolling with us here on the show. As always, thanks for supporting the channel. I'll catch you soon right here on the San Francisco 49ers Report.